The Book of Esther, Chapter 9. In the 12th month, the month of Adar, on the 13th day, when the king's command and decree were about to be executed, on the day the enemies of the Jews hoped to overpower them, the situation was reversed, and the Jews gained the upper hand over those who hated them. The Jews assembled in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to strike those who sought their harm. No one could stand against them, for the fear of them had fallen on all people. All the rulers of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and the king's administrators helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai had fallen on them. Mordecai was prominent in the king's palace. His reputation spread throughout the provinces, and he became more and more powerful. The Jews struck down all their enemies with the sword, killing and destroying them, and they did as they pleased to those who hated them. And in Shushan the palace, the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men, and Parshandatha, and Dalphon, and Aspatha, and Paratha, and Adalia, and Ardatha, and Parmashta, and Arisai, and Aridai, and Vajazatha, the 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hand. On that day, the number of those slain in Shushan, the palace, was reported to the king. The king said to Queen Esther, "The Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, including the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is your petition? It shall be granted to you. What is your further request? It shall be done." Esther replied, "If it pleases the king, let the Jews in Shushan be allowed to do tomorrow, as they have done today, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the gallows." The king commanded it to be done, and the decree was issued in Shushan. They hanged Haman's 10 sons. The Jews in Shushan gathered on the 14th day of the month of Adar, and killed 300 men in Shushan, but they did not lay their hands on the plunder. But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together, and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 70 and 5,000. But they laid not their hands on the prey. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same, rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. Mordecai documented these events and sent letters to all the Jews in the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far, to establish that they should observe the 14th day of the month Adar, and the 15th day of the same month annually. These were the days when the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month that turned their sorrow into joy, and their mourning into a day of celebration, that they should make these days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions to one another and gifts to the poor. The Jews committed to continue what they had started, as Mordecai had instructed them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had plotted to destroy the Jews, and had cast pur, that is, the lot, to annihilate them. But when Esther approached the king, he issued a decree that the wicked plan which Haman had devised against the Jews should fall upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore, for all the words of this letter, and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained, and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing, and according to their appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered, and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai, the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters unto all the Jews, to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed, according as Mordecai, the Jew, and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed, the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in